What's up, everybody? Welcome to the weekend. We'll get started here in just a moment. As always, if you can see us streaming in 1080p, also if you can hear us, just give us a thumbs up in the chat and we will get started. Trust everybody's well, and happy Friday to all. Everybody, I think we can go ahead and get started. So good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Walks in Wall Street. Today is Friday, thank God. It's a busy week. June 21st, 2024. The time is 9:04 p.m. Eastern Time, and we are sitting right outside of the beautiful Central Park, 59th Street, Central Park South, 5th Avenue. We have this beautiful view overlooking New York City's Billionaires Row. 220 Central Park South, Central Park Tower, and the Steinway Tower in the distance. We have the beautiful Plaza Hotel just adjacent from us across the street. And we are overlooking the construction site, which will be the new plaza. That's right outside of the GM building and the Apple Store on 5th Avenue. Now, if you joined us for last night's conversation, we covered a lot. We covered a lot of ground. We covered a lot of interesting topics, from AI to cybersecurity and much, much more. But today, we got some interesting home price and real estate data, I should say, with the existing home sales that came out for the month of May. Now, as we've been talking about this, pretty much came in as expected, with the way interest rates are after the Federal Reserve raised rates to the 200 to 500 basis points within 18 months. That has really frozen the market. So the overall transaction volume is down significantly in a major way. But home prices are not really coming down as many people would have expected. So this is from the report today, the existing home sales report. The median price of an existing home sold in the month of May of 2024 hit a new all-time record high, $419,300. That's up 5.8% year over year. So after this massive hiking cycle we've had, we're still seeing, on average, I should say the median home price, continue to hit brand new all-time record highs month over month and year over year. So again, the median home price for the month of May 2024, $419,300. Pretty monumental number. Now, to be fair, inventory is coming on the market. Inventory of homes for sale jumped in May, up 6.7% month to month and 18.5% year over year. So the amount of existing homes on the market is up 18.5% year over year, but it's still historically low. So coupled with high interest rates and sellers just really not willing to be that negotiable, we're continuing to see prices move higher, which, to be honest, chances are if you are a homeowner in the United States and you purchased 5+ years ago, you probably have a great deal of equity built up in your home, so you might be feeling rather well. We're gonna go ahead and get started on the broadcast tonight. I wanna take you guys all the way down to the Lower East Side, and if we have enough time, I wanna take you all the way back over to the New York Stock Exchange, and we're gonna send it over the Brooklyn Bridge because it is a beautiful night, very clear, it is hot and it is humid, so we'll take some water with us. Last but not least, everybody, if you did not receive it yet, go ahead and check your email. We did send out our bi-weekly investing newsletter called Behind the Street. If you want to sign up to receive all of our equity research for free every other Thursday right as the market closes, just scan the QR code on your screen and punch in your email and you can receive all of our research. This is what it looks like. This is our Substack. The most recent article that I wrote, which I emailed to everybody yesterday, is called How Far Can This Market Go? The 30th record close for the S&P 500. We did a deep dive breaking down the S&P and the NASDAQ 100. We talked about semiconductors and much, much more. If you want to receive it, just go ahead and scan the QR code on your screen, punch in your email. But for now, let's go ahead and get started. Thanks so much for joining. Give us a moment. All right, let's get away from this music. I mean, I like Elvis. I think he's a great guy, talented guy, but the music is rather mind-numbing. Just based upon the duration that we hear music in the city, it is rather mind-numbing, my friends. So I see Joe Driver, what's up? Alan, thanks so much for joining. Mark Summers, Shannon, Doc7, Dario, Esteban, Mike C. What is going on? Troy Admin says, yo Tom, how about Palo Alto Networks up 3%? Yeah, you know, the cyber sector in general, as we were talking about yesterday, got a pretty decent boost. Now, unfortunately, I'm gonna say unfortunately, because I'm not, you know, obviously we never want to see these big cyber attacks happen. But for a large chunk of the broadcast last night, we were talking about this major cybersecurity or cyber attack that has been targeted to a lot of the car dealerships across the country. So it should be interesting to see how that will rectify itself. Lance is here. What's up? Good to see you. DY, Jeff in Southern Tier, New York. Thanks for joining. Michael is here, Ivan, Adventurer, Alan, Doc7. Let's see who else we got. Solo 401, Melee, Adam Luke. Just supply and demand. People desperately want to get into better neighborhoods as well. Robert Brun says that would be. All right, Jenny Trickett, what's up? Someone says the ongoing ransomware affecting 15,000 car dealerships is a catastrophe. It's pretty wild, and this is why, you know, I can't overstate enough the importance to pay attention to this trend in cybersecurity, because as we become a more digitized world, unfortunately enough, we're going to have more cybercrime. But that also creates massive areas for opportunity, for investment, for job growth. So I'd say, look, if you're looking for a career change, or if you're in high school just about to enter college and you're not too sure what you want to do, I think cybersecurity is probably something that you should look at, right? We talked about also nuclear engineering on the last night's broadcast. But if you have cybersecurity skills, you will be in demand and you will always be employed. what I have to say. Hey, Yvette says good evening from Trinidad. Thanks, Yvette. How's the weather in Trinidad? Here in the US, we're going through, what is it called? A heat dome we have going on. It was about 96 degrees in New York City with the heat index and the humidity. It felt like 100 degrees, which is the exact type of weather that I love. Here's another good view of Billionaires Row. Steinway Tower, 157, Central Park Tower. DC322 says, remember I mentioned about the city of Cleveland getting hit with a ransomware attack the other day? I do not, but I'll have to look into that. Mark says that's an understatement here in Phoenix, Arizona. I definitely can imagine. However, in Phoenix, it's more of a dry heat. You know what I mean? It's not, some people can't deal with the humidity. I tend to like it. So, this is a beautiful view as we walk down Fifth Avenue here. To the left, you have the Tiffany building owned by LVMH. And then you have Trump Tower, that big black building. Mike C says, I'm skeptical of the term heat dome. Didn't that used to be just called hot weather? I guess, for sure. Dem Boys says, hey Tom from Maryland. What's up? All right, let's jump right into it. I see Mr. Torres from the Dominican Republic. Good to see you, my friend, from the DR. Dan Sang says, Tom, I got lucky. All of my meetings were on Zoom. Didn't have to go out of my house. God bless the air condition. How was your trip overseas, Dan? I know you were in Italy, right? Anyway, glad you're back. They're doing some major road construction here on 57th Street. They've closed through traffic starting at Madison Avenue because they're gonna totally repave 57th Street. So Billionaires Row is gonna get a brand new look. Now, the biggest piece of economic data that came out today was the existing home sales report. And just as expected, the amount of transactions that are being done on the residential real estate front continued to contract. There's just not a lot of deals being done. The market is frozen. However, the deals that are being done is pushing the price up. So prices aren't really coming down that much. There's some pockets of the country where you're seeing prices come down and cool. But the median sales price is over $419,000. So a median price of a home in the United States, I believe the exact number, $419,300. So talk about inflation. So we got the CPI report out last week. So if you type !CPI in the chat, I think this is very important. We talk about it all the time, but it's very, very good to review. It's gonna bring you to the 12-month rolling average, but it's gonna give you the infographic of the breakdown of the subcategories of CPI. So it's gonna show you energy, food away from home, food at home, medical, and shelter. And what you'll notice is shelter is coming down, but it's such a slow and laborious grind lower. Now, shelter is a lagging, I should say, category of CPI. It's always gonna lag because shelter is not liquid. We talk about this concept, right? If you're reading a balance sheet, you know, think back to your Finance 101 class in college. The professor's at the front of the room and they say the balance sheet is in order of liquidity, right? In order of liquidity. So you have the most liquid things first, right up front, like your cash and equivalents, marketable securities, and as you go all the way down, you have things like property, plant, and equipment, that are less liquid. So real estate in general tends to react more slowly to changes in interest rates. Things like equities that are very, very liquid, they tend to reprice much faster. So it's a very interesting scenario we have going on here in the United States, where everyone is calling for the next housing collapse, right? You watch any kind of YouTube video, all of them are these fear-mongering, you know, it's gonna be another 2008 collapse, it's gonna be worse than '08, prices are gonna come down, but month over month, even with rates the way they are, you're seeing prices continue to push higher. And I think there's a few reasons for that. And this goes back to an article that I wrote, and we've discussed it numerous times. But we're about, what, 2 years into this tightening cycle? The Fed took interest rates from 0, cranked them about 500 basis points, and now the Fed funds rate is in a target range of 5.25% to 5.5%. And many people are jumping up and down, and I was even watching an interview on Fox Business with this guy the other day, and he was calling for the Federal Reserve to cut rates. He's like, we need the market to get moving again. You know, people can't afford homes. We need the Fed to cut rates because nobody can afford homes. If the Fed were to cut rates next month, or at the next FOMC meeting, that's not going to make more people able to afford a home. If anything, over time, that's going to make things much, much less affordable. So the point I'm trying to make is you can't expect 2 years of higher interest rates to solve a decade of ZIRP. We've had interest rates pretty much at 0, so much liquidity sloshing around, so much free money. So you can't expect 18 to 24 months of Fed funds rate at 5.25% to 5.5% to solve and account for a decade of ZIRP. It just doesn't happen like that. Another thing I'd like to say, and I think this is really, really important, particularly as we're coming up on an election year, and there's going to be a lot of political pressure on, obviously, fiscal policy, but monetary policy too. I know they're supposed to be two separate entities, but let's just live in reality here. The problem is this. I believe Americans have been so conditioned, right, over the last 12 years to live in a world of free money and cheap money. So they've been conditioned that that is the normal thing. And everybody's calling for us to go back to normal, which is, oh, when are rates going to come down and go back to normal? I would tell people to zoom out. We are going back to normal. With interest rates finally going up and savers being rewarded again, this is back to normal. What's not normal is a decade of ZIRP. And the problem is, inflation is the biggest problem. The last CPI number that we got was 3.3%. Okay, and everybody was, throwing a big party that it came in below expectations. The expectation was 3.4%. It came in at 3.3%. The lion's share of Americans, okay, I would say the bottom 80%, cannot survive another 2 years of inflation, CPI above 2%. It's not going to work. The top 20% of Americans, this inflation really doesn't affect them as much. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't affect them at all, but I'm saying it doesn't affect them as much. Why is that? Well, it's because they're very asset heavy. They own equities. They own a lion's share of the equities. They own the lion's share of real estate, all of which are performing really, really well. So that has been acting as an inflation hedge. But if you were long $20 million worth of risk last year, that $20 million worth of risk is now $35 million. Okay. The average American that's living with this high inflation, they may have, you know, $100,000 worth of investments. They may have 50,000, they may have none. So as the market is performing really well, most Americans are missing out on the opportunity because the vast majority of their paychecks are going towards the higher grocery bill, are going towards the higher rent bill. So what I think is very, very important for our policymakers to understand is that, and you know, people in the real estate business to understand, is that yes, we're going through a time where no transactions, or I should say very, very few transactions are being done in the residential real estate business. But if you were to lower rates, yeah, there would be more deals that would get done, but you would have wave 2 of inflation, which would decimate the middle class and lower class Americans, because they can't afford another 2% hike in their rent per annum. Can't afford it, can't do it. They can't afford a 25% plus hike year over year in their grocery bill. Can't do it, they'd be destroyed. So I think Fed Chair Jerome Powell should be steadfast and not cut, because if he did, yeah, it'd probably stimulate markets, but it would absolutely decimate the middle class in America. And I wrote about this, and I think it's important. So if you guys want to read the article I wrote, if you scan the QR code on your screen and punch in your email, it'll take you to our Substack, where we publish every other Thursday. I see Nick is here. What's up? This is Tom with Lower Rates. You know, we need to be able to go through some pain, right? That's the whole idea of kicking the can down the road. You know, at some point, we're going to need to, you know, persevere through some adversity to get this inflation down for the greater good of the majority of the country. And I think that's important. I think that is important. Look at how beautiful these American flags look here. We're right outside of Saks Fifth Avenue. It's a beautiful night. Hey, Shadow Shift is here. What's up? MG, always appreciate you joining us. Hey, and we have Mohammed Youssef. What's up? Says, hey Tom from Egypt. It's 4:23 a.m. in Egypt. Wow. And you're still watching the live stream. Well, thank you so much for watching all the way from Egypt. Appreciate it, Mohammed. Mike, New York says it's a hot day. Yeah, it's a scorcher, but I'm thanking God because this is the type of weather I love. We're standing across the street from Rockefeller Center. This is 30 Rock. Evan Weeks, I really don't think we want to go back to substance farming and widespread starvation and scarcity. For sure. Colton Manning, what's up? Alright, let's continue to walk down. Peter says, I wonder what the median house price is if the average is 400K. I doubt the house price follows a bell curve. Prices of houses needs to drop. Well, the median home price in America is 419,000, right? 300? Isn't that it just came out today? $419,300. All right, we're gonna skip over Times Square tonight because I don't know if I can deal with Times Square tonight. Hey, Keith Richards says, great week of streams and topics. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, it really has. It's been been a really good week for sure. Yeah, Mike sees no Times Square tonight. Absolutely not. Waterfall says inflation's got the nation, no time for celebration. Yeah, I mean, and I try to have an open mind, because if you live in a big city like New York or a big city like Miami, you can kind of be in your little bubble, so to speak. And what I mean by that is, if you're around, if you're in the office, and if you work in these careers in major big metropolitan areas, and you work in tech, you work in finance, you work in the real estate business, and you're in these big cities, you can easily get stuck in your little bubble, and you can become detached from reality of what the average American is going through. And that has happened in a major way. And I see it with some of my friends, and people are so out of touch. And that's why I think it's so important. Because look, at the end of the day, and if you go to that infographic that I showed you, this is the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Again, if you type !CPI, inflation peaked in the US at 9.1% in June of 2022. And we reached a trough in June of 2023 at 3%. Now, since then, since June of 2023, we've made zero progress on inflation. We've been chopping around to 3.5%, 3.2%, 3.4%, and now, as of 2 weeks ago, for the May reading, we're at 3.3%. So it seems as if this sustained 3% inflation is the new normal of 2%. The problem is, if you really break it down and do a complete audit of every single thing you spend money on, your rent, your insurance, both your health insurance and auto insurance, homeowners, if you own a house, homeowners insurance, groceries, if you really do a line item by line item audit, I can almost guarantee, now I don't want to speak for anybody, right? But I'll speak for myself. My personal inflation rate year over year has been over 20%, well over 20%. When you factor in cost of homeowners insurance, when you factor in cost of transportation, rent, right? Owner's equivalent rent. And I would bet that's probably the same for many of you in the chat. But I guess I'll ask, what do you guys think? Would you say that your personal inflation rate, like if you had to do a calculation of everything you spend money on, is it less or more than 3.3%? What would you say? All right, I gotta get around these guys. Adventures is more than 3.3%. Victor says more. Theo says yes, in my business it exceeds 20. Mine definitely exceeds 20. Doc 7 says my peers' inflation rate feels like 10%. Middle-aged crying says personal inflation rate 22% year over year. 3.3% is La La Land. I mean, I just know some people in New York where their rent has gone up 9 or 10% in the year, sometimes even more. Annis is more for sure. I would say specifically if anybody has a car, chances are your auto insurance has gone up a great deal. B-Ball says, Tom, just insurance alone, my homeowners and auto insurance, etc., makes it way more than 3.3%. Doc 7 says, some of my healthcare supplies exceed 40%. Well, there you go. So I think it's also important, as we're following the government data, just for yourself's sake, you should just do a complete financial audit of everything that you've spent money on, right? Business expenses, everything. And chances are it's much, much higher. Lark Parks, the cost of living here in California is getting a little bit ridiculous. Now, since we got those existing home sales numbers out, transactions, again, as we stated, fell off a cliff. And the median home sales price for the month of May was $419,300. I think it'd be quite interesting to ask the audience here, what are you guys seeing wherever you are, wherever you're watching this from your neck of the woods? Is your market where you are cooling off a bit? Are you still seeing a very tight market with sellers being very reluctant to drop their price? What are your thoughts? Hey, Diana Gunn says, hey Tom, we have really enjoyed watching your streams for quite a while. Have a great evening. Hey, thank you so much, Diana, for your very kind and generous 20 CAD donation. I appreciate you and thank you for supporting the stream. Joel PM says, an ear of corn costs $1.05. Used to get a bushel for that much or more. Dario says, can you guys imagine that the inflation rate in my country is 5% a month? It's a nightmare. You know, Dario makes a really, really good point. Professor, by the way, our good friend Dario is a PhD professor, so I'll address him as a professor. Professor's right, which, you know, many people in the audience, if you're from Argentina, which I think Dario is, professor, right? Inflation rate is triple digits per annum in those countries. So oftentimes when we're complaining about 3.3% inflation, many people around the world are like, oh my God, I wish we had 3.3% inflation per annum instead of triple digit inflation. So I do understand how, you know, us Americans are quite out of touch. I get that. Yeah, I mean, think about that. That's probably also another reason why you're starting to see a big global flight to safe haven assets like gold, which is still holding steady over $2,200 an ounce. I don't understand how you would operate in that environment. It's crazy, right? Triple digit inflation per year. Let's hope to God, which I don't think we will. I don't think the US will ever see that type of inflation. There's a lot of people that call for the United States to see this hyperinflationary collapse. Our economy is too strong for that. The US economy, that's really the one main thing that we have going for us in the United States, is our economy is a freaking monster, right? It's a powerhouse. And that's saving us from a lot of those problems, which also, by the way, has allowed us to go on our spending binge that we've been going on for the past, I should really say, 4 years, right? We spent like a drunken sailor under the Trump administration. Obviously, I understand the context of COVID. We needed to spend to get out of the pandemic, but Biden, under the Biden administration, is probably gonna match the spending under the Trump administration. And politicians are banking that we'll be able to grow out of this, which they may be right. They may be right. But if the US wasn't an economic powerhouse like it is, and if we didn't have the world's reserve currency, there'd be no way in hell we'd be able to spend money like we do. Absolutely no way. All right, Madison Avenue, 42nd Street. We're coming up on the beautiful Grand Central Station and One Vanderbilt. But if I pan the camera a little bit further north, you're gonna see this beautiful view of the Art Deco building, the Chrysler building, which looks great. All right, let me catch up on some of the comments here. Peter says the houses are not selling at the desired sales price, and many are renting the houses, waiting to get the price they want. Mike C says, I can't imagine holding gold for the long term. Vegas ones, there are plenty of houses in Vegas under $300,000. Dave S says, I see houses are selling in 8 days on average in was that San Jose, California? Hold on one second. San Jose, California. Pam says, Tom, upstate New York is still very strong. Yeah, parts of upstate New York have been very strong, with a lot of downstate New Yorkers from Nassau, Suffolk County, New York City, moving up there. Mark Summers says, I'm a local agent here in Phoenix, and yes, definitely see listings are sitting much longer. Middle-aged Grind, Tom, the housing market is tight because most people don't want to give up 3 or 4% interest rate to get a new mortgage at 6 or 7%. It's a really good point. Really good point. Ala Willow says, Bay Area, my city house is selling a week, up $300,000 from last year. Yeah, it's those specific submarkets, particularly some of the submarkets in California, are actually arguably hotter than they were during the pandemic, because a lot of these tech companies, particularly these semiconductor companies, wink wink Nvidia, have pretty much minted almost all of their employees multi, if not deca-millionaires. So if you look at some of the listings or the recent trades around Nvidia's headquarters, that housing market is extremely, extremely tight. That's a good point. Hey, Evan Weeks, what's up? Good to see you.
What are you saying?
All right, we're about to walk under Pershing Square. It's the name of Bill Ackman's hedge fund. Hey, Rick B, what's up? See the crane that's on top of 270 Park. Now, here's one thing I'll say which kind of contributes to the conversation a little bit. Here's the main thing. The market has proven to us that it's okay with these higher interest rates. The main problem that we have is the national debt, right? We're spending so much. When the Fed starts to hike rates, our politicians should kind of understand, like, all right, we should be a little bit conscious here because our interest on the debt is going to accrue so astronomically. I think the national debt accumulates about $1 trillion now every 100 days, which is wild. Oops. So if we fix the spending problem, the Fed could probably just leave rates here. I know, Mike sees like $1 trillion here, $1 trillion there. Pretty soon you're talking about real money. Yeah, I know, right? Or pretty soon you're not talking about real money. Pretty soon it's funny money. All right, we'll do one lap around Grand Central Station. They got the AC cranked in here. It's pretty busy too, which it should be for a Friday night.
I put my like IRL.
For those of you who are just joining, you're going to head down to the Lower East Side tonight. Hey, Lise, fix the spending problem, call 911. Yeah. Well, I believe in the law of slow-moving disasters, which essentially, over time, when we see a disaster coming, we figure it out and we fix it. So, I don't subscribe to the belief that we're going to have this out-of-control debt spiral in the U.S. I'm not buying it. I don't believe it. With AI, with innovation, there's a really good shot we quite possibly may be able to grow out of this if the stars align. But that's not to say that we should continue to spend more. We really need to be more conservative with this. But all right, I'll give you guys one more shot over the main concourse here. If you guys are enjoying the live stream tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. We do these live streams every night starting at 8:45. Let's head out. We'll go out the entrance that brings us right under the Pershing Square Bridge. Danny J says, how do I feel about AI replacing jobs? I think it's, if you kind of look back throughout history, every major new technological innovation has decimated jobs. But at the same time, it creates roughly about 4 to 5 times the amount of jobs it destroys, right? So for every one job a new technology destroys, it'll create 4 to 5 more. The problem is we just don't know what those jobs are going to be. And I've often used this explanation. If you go all the way back, right, to 1985, and you took everything you knew right now, and you could visit yourself back in 1985, and you were telling everybody of all the job opportunities of today, everything that's going on, they wouldn't really be able to wrap their head around any of it, just because it didn't exist back then. It didn't even exist back in 1990, right? So if you were to say, oh, I sell enterprise software, I'm a Salesforce administrator, I'm a data scientist at this company. I'm a quantitative researcher. I work on autonomous driving. Most of all of those jobs, right, at all these new innovative SaaS companies, enterprise software companies, they weren't even around. They didn't even exist, these jobs. I think the same thing is going to be said for AI. It's going to destroy a lot of jobs. But if you fast forward 20 years from now, I hate when they lock these doors. If you fast forward 20 years from now, there's probably going to be job titles that we have no idea what they are right now. But that technology will then in turn create those jobs. They'll require a completely different set of skills, right? But that's usually how things work out. So I try not to go too far down that rabbit hole of, fear about AI destroying jobs and people, and that is also a conservative stance, by the way. That's kind of where I deviate from some of the conservative political points of view, where they actually want to stop this technology. You never want to stop innovation. You never, ever, ever want to get in the way of free markets, because free market capitalism is the most perfect thing ever. And the market will work itself out. You never want to get in the way and interrupt it. So that's my take. Doesn't mean I'm right, but that's my take. Anybody disagree with that? Hey, Rocky Rocks, what's up? With this AI in a decade or two, average commoner will sit home. Cool. Alright, well, let's start to head down because we got a long way to go to the Lower East Side. Danny J says, my problem with AI is we won't be able to tell what is real or what is credible. I don't know about that. I think that's been a concern, particularly with Google's AI, who's quote-unquote woke. But I have a feeling a lot of that stuff is going to sort itself out, because if what they say about artificial intelligence is correct, that it's going to be smarter than every single human on the planet combined, if that's true, well, then it should be able to decipher fact from fiction. So
It's the Humane Society.
Rick B says, look at the new professions created because of YouTube. AI will do the same. Yeah, I mean, what if you went back to 1985 and were like explaining to yourself what we're actually doing right now? Yeah, we're watching a broadcast, walking around New York City, streaming in high definition, 1080p, and there's hundreds of people in the chat where we could talk about, the markets and all that type of stuff. It's just almost like unbelievable. Mentality, right? Many people sit back and either just accept that their industries are going to be disrupted and they'll go out of business. Other people throw a fit and try to stop the innovation. But the winners and the people who make fortunes are the people who don't bitch and complain about it, and they're like, hey, we have a wave of disruption coming at us. How are we going to adapt as a company to adapt to these changes, innovate along with the technology, so so we become the disruptor and not the disrupted. So that's the kind of stance that I take about technology and about change. You got to embrace change. You can't fight it, because every minute that you spend complaining about it and fighting about it, there's 3 or 4 or 5 other people, in this case, in reality, thousands of other people at top universities from around the world that are embracing this technology, that are going to make a fortune from it, and that are going to put you out of a job regardless. So I would reframe, through a series of reframe your attitude about it and say, wow, things are going to change. I'm going to be a part of that change, and I'm going to make myself a fortune as well. Okay, so we're now back on 5th Avenue. We're right outside the Stephen Schwartzman building. But we're gonna head all the way down 5th, past Koreatown, all the way to Madison Square Park, on our way to the Lower East Side. I mean, just think about all the industries that have been disrupted over the years. Does anybody remember Yellow Pages? Who remembers that? I had a friend, a buddy that I worked with. One of his jobs, he was working for the Yellow Pages, selling advertising for the phone book. I mean, that job definitely doesn't exist again, or anymore. You had rooms full of people in New York City working for the Yellow Pages, making calls to small, medium-sized businesses to advertise in the phone book. Okay, Meta, Facebook, Amazon, Google has totally destroyed that industry. But if you were to have pivoted and went along with digital advertising, you would have made a fortune, and you probably are still making a really good fortune. Hey, what's up, Joe E? Evan Weeks says, yeah, but advertising jobs haven't gone away. Yeah, but they're extremely, extremely different. To be able to understand digital advertising, to be able to understand, search engine optimization, it's a much, much different job. Digital advertising sales, or even marketing, it's such a different world. What is the conversion rates on your advertisement, right? Understanding, pay-per-click, understanding good search engine optimization, understanding which ads convert digitally and which don't. It's a completely different world. Hey, Lori C, take it easy. Thanks for joining us. Doc 7, I don't have any predictions for the S&P 500. And it's not too long ago that what year did 4G come out? I don't want to misspeak, but what year did 4G networks come out? Was that 2012, 2013? So if you think about it, what we're doing right now wasn't even possible to do in 2011, in 2012, for the most part, right? You need an LTE connection in order to broadcast, unless you want to broadcast like one individual pixel. I think the only main industries that really haven't been disrupted is like food and beverage. Well, I guess you can, I don't know if you could say that, you know, with DoorDash, Uber Eats, things like that, but that's more in the distribution medium of it. I don't know, it's an interesting conversation for sure. NMB 45 says, I still remember those days when 3G was a thing on my phone. Yeah. Now there's going to come a day where we will be able to do these live streams in 4K 60 frames a second, and we're going to be looking back on this, you know, just mark my words, in 10 years we're going to be like, you guys, how do we even operate doing this live stream in 1080p? It's going to look so cartoonishly ridiculous. You know what it's going to look like? It's going to look like the original Super Mario game, where it's like Mario's 2 pixels, and that game Pong. Does anyone remember that? Like the first video game, that little Pong thing? That's what it's going to look like when we have live streaming capability in 4K, 60 frames a second, 1080p. This is probably 30 frames, maybe even 25. I have to look. It's going to look so obsolete. I mean, even 720p is horrible, and that's why if you use the X platform, formerly known as Twitter, Elon Musk really needs to fix that. Anytime you try to upload a video over like 2 or 3 minutes, the compression is so bad. The file compression is crazy. You can't even watch a video on Twitter. It's the worst thing ever. If Elon really wants to dominate, which I think he will, by the way, he should start to make the X platform as high quality of a viewing experience as YouTube. KT's dial-up internet was a big drama center in dorms, especially when a boyfriend called. Wow. So you mean like a payphone? Oh, I know what you're saying. Like when you would get a phone call at the house and it would knock out the internet, right? Is that what you mean? You know, that's just a little bit before my time, but I remember it very, very vaguely. Because we had a home phone, but I was almost like too young to remember it, but I do know what you're saying. So someone would call and then it would knock out the internet. You couldn't be on the internet and talk on the phone. I mean, could you imagine telling that to a 15-year-old today? They'd look at you like you're crazy. You're like, what? You mean I can't be streaming Netflix, talking on FaceTime, streaming on my PS5 at the same time? What? No, you couldn't do that before. It's wild how technology has progressed. Right, everyone, we've made it. Here we are at the beautiful Empire State Building. One of the greatest buildings in the entire world, arguably, right? Built during the Great Depression. I like the classic white on the Empire now. All right. Start to head downtown. Now most phones don't even use SIM cards anymore. We now operate off of eSIM. Tyler says phones do give migraines, bad eyes, and poor quality sleep. I mostly resonate with the last one. Now, if we had to use our imagination and give like a huge far out prediction, here's what my future tech far out prediction will be. All of the devices that we have, and I'll preface this with a really good interview I watched today. I watched this amazing interview. This was, I'm trying to think of the year. It might have been 2009. If you go to my Twitter page, at Walks Wall Street, you'll be able to see it. But it's with the CEO and founder of MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor. And he was talking about a major bull thesis to buy and hold Apple stock. So he was talking about all of these Wall Street analysts that were very bearish. Apple, he was calling them idiots. He went on TV, he's like, these people are absolutely idiots, they don't understand technology. And he was talking about the refresh cycle in these devices in perpetuity forever. He's like, Apple's gonna have $1,000 device that's gonna get a little bit better each year. It's gonna be a little bit thinner, it's gonna look a little bit better, it's gonna have faster processing power, better graphics, better camera capabilities each and every year, and it's going to bring about the most aggressive upgrade cycle the world has ever seen, and it's going to generate billions and billions of dollars a year in perpetuity because of this upgrade cycle. Well, it turns out he was dead on. He was absolutely right. But here's the next step, right? As we think about technology, I think about latency. I used to work for, well, the company's no longer around, Sprint. It's now T-Mobile, but I used to work for this really brilliant engineer who was a contractor for SoftBank, and he was running our IoT department, and he was such a brilliant guy. And he explained something to me. He's like, if you think about tech trends over time, he's like, think about a human being like me and you as supercomputers. This is what he was explaining. And he's like, when you pick up a device, when you pick up an iPhone, you are technically one with the computer. The only difference is the latency, right? So back in the day, before we had smartphones, before we had internet, right? If you needed to know something, you had to go to the library and look up the answer to a question, right? Now, what do? We pick up our phone, we do a Google search, we type it into a GPT prompt, and we get the answer instantaneously. That is making us a supercomputer. But there's latency. The latency is, hey Siri, who's the president of Zimbabwe? There's a 2-second latency lag for Siri to get us the answer, or there's a 3-second latency lag for GPT to spit out the prompt. What I think the future will be is all of these devices, there'll actually be no devices. The humans will be the device. And I see that in Neuralink technology. It'll be this augmented reality where essentially you'll just be able to think about things, and you'll be hooked into the internet hardwired and be able to get the answer. So you will be a GPT, and humans will have software updates, just like how, if you have a Tesla, you have your Tesla go through a software update when it's charging at night. I think that's the future if I had to go way far out. And you're already kind of seeing that. If you go to Neuralink's website and you study they have one patient. He's a really good guy. He's unfortunately paralyzed from the shoulders down after this horrible accident. And he's the first person to have a Neuralink chip in his head. And he's able to play chess and move the pieces around just by thinking about it. That is going to expand to everything. You're going to be able to have conference calls, just like how we do FaceTime. You're going to be able to just think about your buddy and ping him or her on their brain, and you guys are going to be telecommuting and talking to each other that way. That's coming. That's what I think the biggest thing is. And then we don't need devices. There'd be no need for a device if we have true Neuralink capabilities that I think we're going to get. Now, if you guys had to make a prediction, right, and that's latency, right? Then it's like a fully transmitted process. You know, think about when you were a kid, right? You would play like Call of Duty or something, and it would be so laggy and so jittery. It's just gonna be none of that. It's going to be with you, and that will be. We will essentially be one with machine. We will be one with machine, I think. Okay, we are now in Koreatown, 32nd Street, Korea Way. Hey, what's up, Teresa? What's up? Melissa 2087, what's up? Triple G says years ago memory banks were expensive and mass storage systems were always in question. Hey, Tommy Guy, what's up? Zozo Bob. Zozo Bob, I think they're starting construction on 6 Fisher Island now. Related secured, what was it, a $410 million construction loan? And I think they're going to start on the project. I think they've started actually on 6 Fisher. Next time I'm down in Miami, I'm going to take a little bit of a trip to Fisher Island again. One of the, I should say, negative pieces of feedback I've been getting about Fisher is a lot of the real estate there, even though it's beautiful, it's expensive, it's dated on Fisher Island. A lot of the real estate's dated. And it's too far away. You know, you gotta take a ferry too far. All right, let's check out the Empire from here. Koreatown's absolutely on fire. Just a quick reminder for everybody, if you like the topics that we talk about, the financial markets, new and emerging tech, we do send out our free investing newsletter every other Thursday, right as the market closes. And I just sent it out to everybody yesterday. If you have not signed up yet, just scan the QR code on your screen and punch in your email. And every other Thursday, you will receive our Behind the Street newsletter. But feel free to take a look around our Substack, because we have over 2 years of archived research on there. Hey, Michelle K, what's up? I really want to take one lap through Koreatown, but we gotta stay focused here. We gotta head down. Hey, Frank's here. What's up, Frank? D, happy Friday. We're on 31st Street. We're gonna head first to 28th. It's gonna be Madison Square Park and the one and only Flatiron Building. Man, the city is on fire tonight. So many people out. As we make our way, maybe we'll take a little bit of a detour through the East Village as we head to the Lower East Side. My prediction that it's going to be absolutely packed. Lots of nightlife, lots of bars on the Lower East Side, East Village, kind of near like St. Mark's Place.
Burn you like the pool you.
Wow, 3 grams. It's 117 degrees in Phoenix today. Going to be a long summer. Whew. Man, 117. I wonder how that feels. You could probably fry an egg on your on your driveway. Yo, Ike, what's up, man? Good to see you. Long time no see. Happy Friday and happy summer. Graham says I gotta move to Miami. Well, right now Miami is a lot cooler than pretty much everywhere in the country. But this hurricane season is supposed to be horrible. I think we're actually watching a tropical storm brewing off the coast. Hopefully that doesn't hit mainland, knock on wood. I think if we get a tropical storm in Miami within the next month, I don't know if our infrastructure is going to be able to support that with all the rain we just got. We got over 40 inches of rain in 3 days. The ground is pretty waterlogged as it is. We just need a very tame hurricane season, hopefully. Hey, what's up, John? Oh, Zozo Bob. Happy birthday. Indeed, Feliz cumpleaños a ti, right? I'm trying to learn Spanish. I think my Spanish is getting better. I'm at the point in my learning curve with Spanish where I need to start to speak it, but I'm kind of like, how do I find the words to describe this? A little bit embarrassed to speak it because of my pronunciation, but I need to overcome that hurdle. But I've been studying. I've been really hammering on it. I think my Korean pronunciation is better than my Spanish. I'd say that. My goal in a perfect world is to be fluent in both English, Spanish, and Korean. And I think I'm almost fluent there in English, almost there. A little bit to work on. But that'd be great. That would open a lot of doors and opportunity. Peter says Hurricane Andrew came in 1992, so South Florida is due for a big one. Yeah, that was before I was born. About 4 years before I was born, Hurricane Andrew. From people that I know who've lived through that, they said it pretty much just decimated and wiped everything out. But I don't know what's happening with the weather patterns, because it's not like Florida has not been getting hurricanes. Florida's been getting some major storms, but they've all been hitting on the west coast of Florida. Sarasota, I think, got it bad last year. What's that part of Florida that got decimated like a year or two ago? Unfortunately, that we've had to rebuild it. I'm gonna forget. Fort Myers, Florida. Fort Myers, yeah. Got it really bad. Mad Mappers. His home insurance is up 100% in Florida. Now, you know what's strange? My homeowner's insurance actually went down last year. It's still ridiculously high. It's unbelievably high. I pay about $4,500 a year for insurance, and that's just homeowner's insurance. That's not flood insurance. I don't get flood insurance because I'm not in a flood zone. But I spend about $4,500 a year on insurance, which is about $200 less than I paid last year. So if you're gonna buy something down there, you really got to do your diligence on the flood zone where you're buying at, because the insurance companies take all of that into account. So the lucky letter, I should say, is X. If you're thinking about buying a single family home, duplex, triplex, buy in flood zone X. Trust me, it'll probably save you a few $1,000s a year. This is a pretty cool shot. The FDNY hanging out outside of the gelato place. This is relatively new what the city did here. They closed down Broadway to, vehicle traffic, and they've made it almost like a European city feel, right? Where you have people dining outside. It's pretty beautiful. And you have dedicated bike lane, no cars whizzing by. It looks a lot better than what it used to look like. This used to be just a traffic jam gridlock of vehicles here. Hey Felipe, what's up? Bienvenidos. So does this make sense? Bienvenidos a la programa de Walks Wall Street. Welcome to the program of Walks on Wall Street. Am I missing a variable there? Bienvenidos a la programa de Walks on Wall Street. Does that make sense? Anyway, let's continue on down so we've already been streaming for 1.5 hours. I gotta get you guys to the Lower East Side before the 2-hour mark. Dario says, Bienvenidos al programa. 10-4. Yeah, that's one of my goals. Look, I think if I'm gonna live in South Florida long term, I wanna be fluent. And the people are quite nice down there. I spend a lot of time 72nd Street, which is Little Buenos Aires, big community, people from Argentina. And I try to speak Spanish to them. They teach me a thing or two. Hey, Sabrina Fair, what's up? We got to get you down to Stony Isles Beach. I was talking to a good buddy, and he said Spanish, you can really tell where someone's from by the accent and the slang that they use, right? So people from, oops, let me just cross here. Since we don't have the light, but the light just changed. Anyway, I think like picking up on those little things, like the slang, is going to be different depending on what part of the world you're from. But generally speaking, I think if you learn Spanish, you can communicate virtually with everybody, but it's just going to be, I guess, the slight difference in dialect. Hey Mark says, hey Tom, how are you doing? Are you moving to Florida? It is really beautiful down here. It was 86 degrees here today. Yeah, I moved to Florida almost 4.5 years ago now. But I agree, I love Florida. It's awesome. Miami, Florida. I mean, Florida's a big state. I feel as if it's kind of like the same thing about being from New York, right? Some people think that are not from New York. You tell them you're from New York and they think about Times Square or something like that. But if the state of New York is a massive, massive place. You know, you could say, oh, I'm from New York State, and you could be almost 450 miles away from New York City, right near the border of Canada. But I love it. I love it. There's probably no two cities I would rather live than New York and Miami, Florida. It's just the best two for me. Just for me personally. Okay, so we're gonna make a transition. It's gonna be very quiet now. So we're gonna get a nice break from the clang and bang of the city. Probably until we get down to about 8th Street. And then the city is really gonna come alive again, but this is gonna be much more quiet, which should be nice. Hey Patrick, what's up? Thanks for joining us. Ah, Mark, I see what you're saying. You're talking about me so I would never be in Florida 100% of the time. In a perfect world, I want to start to get up to 50-50. 50% of my time in the Miami-Dade County region, and then 50% of my time in the city. That's probably where I'm trying to work my way up to. But also here's the thing, and I know, and this conversation does tie into, the financial markets and economics, because if I had to make one major criticism of the US in general, where I think they've done a really big disservice to, I should say, a lot of our youth in public schools, is they don't require, aka they should really force, kids to learn a second language immediately from like nursery school, elementary school. Because the business opportunities that opens you up to is unbelievable. I mean, imagine I become completely fluent in Spanish. That opens me up to doing deals all throughout Latin America. That, in my lifetime, that could mean millions of dollars. Imagine if I was fluent in Mandarin. That could, the total addressable market on that, of accumulating skills to be able to communicate with a massive number of people, it's unbelievable. So I think if I ever have kids, or when I have kids, they will 100% at least probably know a minimum of 3 languages that they're fluent in. Because let's say if you're going after a job in banking, finance, or sales, and the candidates are very similar, but one of the candidates is fluent in Mandarin, in Korean, in Spanish, in English. The person who knows multiple languages is so much more valuable to be able to make those connections, to be able to communicate with more people, millions and millions and millions of people. So I think it's important. I don't know, that was a big hiccup for Americans. And I think there was a time in this country where it's like, they were like, only speak English, only speak English. And I think that's just such a short-sighted, from a business standpoint, it's suicide, right? Because if you want to do business, you want to do business with people from every nook and cranny of this world, particularly if you're a salesperson, right? I don't want to just sell to people that speak English. I want to sell to people, you know, I want to open myself up to Asia, right? I want to open myself up to Latin America, right? Expansion. So they finally paved this road, and it looks really good. Have a dedicated bike lane. What's up, Dave, Western Mass? I see our good moderator, Sunshine After Rain. What's up? Wait for this Uber to go by. And we're now officially in Union Square. 625 says most European countries teach their people more than one language. Most South American countries teach English in school. Canadians speak 2 languages. I believe it was Peter Thiel. Has anybody read the book 0 to 1? It's a really good book. I'd recommend that. 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. But I believe it was him, don't quote me on this, it could have been some other big venture capitalist, but their prediction is that over the last decade, the biggest, I guess you could even say, to kind of be funny, like the biggest meme was learn to code, right? Telling everybody learn to code, learn to code, learn to code, you know, heavy tech fundamentals. But he said with AI, there could potentially be a major shift, which would make the most valuable skill is actually human-to-human communication. So he recommends really working on your public speaking skills, your tonality, how you can command an audience. That's his prediction, because the AI will become so smart where it'll be able to code and debug itself in perpetuity. Now, I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but there may be a 180 shift where those interpersonal skills may become that much more valuable, right? Public speaking, communication. And I have a few friends who are public school teachers out on Long Island, and one of the things that they tell me is some of these kids, particularly the younger kids, are severely lacking in just basic communication. You know, can't look you in the eye, a little awkward because of this whole COVID thing, because we've required all these little kids to wear these fraudulent masks, you know, and force them to stay home. So I would say if you have little kids, rip your masks off the kids so they can be normal, so they can learn facial expressions, tonality. And a few of my buddies that are teachers out on the island, at some of the top school districts, by the way, are like, some of these kids just do, like, they cannot communicate. Like some of the kids, like when we grew up, right? Hey, Mr. Torres, this is very good, Tom. Practice your Spanish with us. I don't know English, I listen to you, and I have Google Translate. Oh wow, that's cool. Yeah, I try to speak Spanish as much as I can, for sure. Maybe one day we'll be doing these broadcasts exclusively in Spanish. What does it say? Legendary ciphers. All right, made it to 14th Street. We will now cross to the south side. ASG plays. Is it real or pre-recorded? It's neither real nor pre-recorded. That was a risky pass by that biker. That car just blew a red light. So we're going to walk to Astor Place. You'll be able to see the main cube. Down here, I believe, is where the headquarters of that quantitative hedge fund, 2 Sigma, is. Wow, long line for the bus. It's probably a major delay or something. You know what? We'll cross the street. So I want to take you guys to the Strand bookstore, which is one of my favorite bookstores in the city. But my favorite one is in the East Village, called East Village Books. I think there was a Yankee game yesterday, right? So East 12th Street, coming up on our left. You'll see Strand. Since 1927. Yeah, Mike says when reminiscences of a stock opera is mentioned, drink. I feel as if I should get royalties on that book. For the amount of times I mention reminiscences and the Sherry Netherland Hotel. I mean, I plug the Sherry Netherland Hotel almost every day, multiple times. Ali Star says, Tom, have you seen that Netflix doc, Money Bots, on high frequency trading? I have not seen that, but I've actually been long Netflix stock. I think it's going to perform really, really well. Full transparency. I wrote a bull thesis on Netflix a few months ago in the newsletter. Now, there was a good article in the Wall Street Journal last week talking about the changing landscape in the advertising business of both Netflix, Amazon, and how it relates to streaming. Also YouTube, by the way. And I believe we've talked about this before, but I think it's important, so we'll go ahead and briefly cover it again. Look at how cool this building is. This is a new office tower. Now, we know how lucrative the SaaS model has been, right? SaaS standing for software as a service, reoccurring revenue. And if you've noticed, Netflix made a major move about a year ago to crack down on password sharing. So back in the day, you would have one, family account of Netflix and everybody would spam the password around. Now that's no more, which has been working wonders for revenue because now everybody has to pay for their individual account. What you've noticed with Alphabet, who owns YouTube, one of the things they've been doing is pushing the YouTube Premium in a major way. Not because they don't like the advertising business, but advertising generally tends to be very cyclical in nature. The ad business and ad spend is very cyclical. But if you can convert someone to a paying subscriber to pay $12 or $15 a month, now you could achieve massive scalability with that, assuming that the churn rates are very low, which, it is for YouTube Premium. Very seldom does anybody churn out or cancel their subscription. So what that allows the company to do, essentially it builds predictability within the business. And Wall Street generally tends to assign higher valuations for predictable revenue streams. And I think that's what's really dominating the industry. Now, what they're also talking about doing is integrating advertisements within the content where you can make in-content purchases. I'm not too sure how that's going to work out though. Has anybody heard about that? Apparently what Netflix wants to do, let's say if you're watching your favorite Netflix show, let's make a left here because if Dario is still in the chat, if Professor is here, we'll take a look at the cube at Astor Place. So let's say, for example, you're watching your favorite Netflix show, and your favorite character, the main character, is wearing this cool jacket or something. You will be able to buy that jacket, that stylish jacket, or whatever, I'm just making an example, in-content purchase. That's what they're trying to roll out. Now, I don't know if people are going to like that, if that's going to disrupt the content or not. Who thinks that's a good idea or a bad idea? I don't know. I think it'll be interesting for them to try it out. Pam says, what is the best application for live TV? Whew, I don't know. What's the best streaming service for live TV? Xavier says Amazon Prime. What does Amazon Prime come with? Now, what we also need to understand is the crowdedness of the industry. There's so many different streaming services now where if you think about value propositions, this is the cube, by the way, right over here. The value proposition for a streaming service is to cut the cost of your cable bill in half, or more than in half. But with the data that's coming out now, the average American has between 4 to 6 streaming subscriptions. between Amazon Prime Video, between Peacock, Hulu, Netflix, YouTube Premium, where that's adding up to, you guessed it, what people used to pay before for cable. So I think that value proposition is kind of going away a little bit. Here we are at Astor Place. Right on the corner of Lafayette and East 8th Street is Wegmans. Mad Mappers here. What's up? Shell. T-Cows is 3-1. Oilers coming back for the Stanley Cup. So who's in the Stanley Cup? The team from Florida, the Panthers, and the Oilers. You know what? I'll take you guys through St. Mark's. I was going to skip St. Mark's today, but what the hell? We'll go through it. But if you guys are enjoying the live stream, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. We do these streams every day starting at 8:45. Since it's Friday night, St. Mark's Place is going to be rocking tonight. Zozo Bob's still got Paramount Plus. I can watch the Super Bowl for $6 a month. Not bad. Oh, then you also have HBO, which that new television show, the sequel to Game of Thrones. This is St. Mark's Place and the St. Mark's Hotel. I'm really glad they're building this new development here, because St. Mark's Place used to be very, very grimy, and it still is grimy to some extent. And I'm not saying that necessarily in a bad way, but you know, sometimes grimy is good. But St. Mark's Place, if you've been here before, it's a little grunge. So hopefully with the new condominiums going in, it'll become a little bit less grime. It's actually quite quiet tonight. I was not expecting that.
No, that wasn't. I was just getting myself prepped.
Used to be a good ramen place here that unfortunately burned down. It was a kitchen fire. Vibes, hey Tom, what neighborhood are we in? We are on St. Mark's Place in the East Village of Manhattan. Lance has any plans for the weekend. Not too many plans, to be honest. Hopefully tomorrow I can just kind of collect my thoughts in the office. I like to take one day to go into the office when nobody else is in and just get some deep work done, organize myself, kind of relax. Guy's got a nice dirt bike. All right, let's go to 2nd Avenue and we'll bang this right. Hey, Curtis. What's up, Curtis? This is hello from Central Texas. Hope you're staying cool in this heat dome. Heat wave. What do we have going on? Second Avenue. This is that bubble tea place. Let's go ahead and make this right. And we'll pretty much take this all the way down until Delancey. This looks like a cool coffee shop. What do you guys think of the vibe down here? It's very different, right? It's very cool. Little hole in the wall places to eat. It's fun. It's really good. Fun times down here. We're gonna go down to the Lower East Side, near the Williamsburg Bridge. Maybe if we have enough time, we'll go on top of the Brooklyn Bridge again, because
What are you doing?
the view should be pretty spectacular. You'll see a lot of the low-rise pre-war architecture. Where do you guys think we should go tomorrow? Oscar says, hey Thompson, or is it just Tom? It's Thompson. But where do you guys think we should go tomorrow? I'm thinking Stone Street, I'm thinking Staten Island Ferry, I'm thinking a little bit of Wall Street. What do you think? Hudson Yards, okay, Hudson Yards is a good one. Dario, maybe we will go Hudson Yards and go to the High Line and walk the High Line all the way down to Meatpacking.
No, we don't have
Shannon's is Long Island. Not gonna happen. Maybe I'll be there myself tomorrow, but not an ideal place for the broadcast. Someone says start from Lincoln Center and go up. I would love to do that. Every time we try, there's no internet. There's zero internet on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. We try to go to the Dakota, which is 72nd Street, Central Park West, which is arguably one of the most beautiful buildings on New York City's Upper West Side. There's just no internet. It's just constant buffer, regardless of what carrier you have. It doesn't matter if I plug in my Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile. There's just no service there. I'm trying to think of when the last time we were up there, Upper West Side. That was when we ran into Kevin Bacon. I took you guys to the Dakota, and then we bumped into Kevin Bacon up there. At least I think that's the guy that we ran into. Adam Luke, yeah. That little white light in the distance right here is the very, very top of One Manhattan Square. Which is an Extel development. Gary Burnett. All right, we got a few more blocks.
Oh my God.
But I think we had a good conversation tonight. We talked about existing home sales, the median sales price in the United States, a new all-time record high. And then we talked a little about AI and how the markets finished for the week. Just a quick reminder for everybody to check your email. Thursday, I sent out our free investing newsletter, which we talked about a lot. We covered a lot of material there. So go ahead and check your email, but if you have not already subscribed to our free investing letter, where we share all of our equity research for free, you can just scan the QR code on your screen and punch in your email, and that'll take you to our Substack. We publish every other Thursday. So go ahead and check it out. And we now have over 5,000 readers, so thank you all for that. I like the graffiti on this building. It's a cool look. Now, if we were to make a right, this will take us into the NoHo neighborhood. Houston Street. Hey, we lucked out. We got the light. Should I take you guys to Katz's Deli? Not tonight. We'll continue on. Hey, NAV 407, what's up? Good to see you. Finally have a little bit of peace and quiet through here. Yeah, maybe we'll check out Battery Park. This is what I think we'll do. This is what we'll do tomorrow. We'll start off the broadcast at Hudson Yards. So we'll start a little bit early tomorrow. We'll walk the entire High Line all the way down to Chelsea / Meatpacking. And then we will continue all the way down to the World Trade Center. And I'm blanking on the name, but that's what we'll do. Brookfield Place. There we go. That's what I was thinking about. What the heck is that person doing in their apartment? Jeez. It's the thing about New York City. You can pretty much see into everybody's apartments. Hey, I love watching you stream. This is the best way to travel while there's inflation. Good point. Good way to look at it. Thank you for watching. Let's cross through. Tonight we'll go routes less traveled. This is Rivington. I actually haven't been through here in a long time. What a difference a few blocks makes, right? Mark, thank you for joining tonight. Appreciate it. This is a cool little wine bar. Eldridge Street.
It's kind of nice.
That's why I like being in New York City in the summer. You just walk aimlessly for miles and miles and miles. Weather's great. You'll start to see a little bit of a pickup in the nightlife over here. See some bars, restaurants.
I can see the vibe, to be fair. That's it. Yeah.
And there is One Manhattan Square in the distance. Zozo Bob's. Tom, the 2017 tax cuts expire next year. Any thoughts? Honestly, no material thoughts right now, just to be very blunt. But knowing the government, there'll probably be some sort of new stimulus package that replaces it. Hey, Derek says, thank you, Tom. I got a few of the books on Kindle today that you've been suggesting. One Up on Wall Street and Reminiscences. Ah, very nice. Two great reads. And two great investors, Jesse Livermore and Peter Lynch. I'll recommend one more book, which is one of my all-time favorites, which you should definitely get. It's like definitely a required reading. This place is nice. But the book is by Phil Fisher. He was the CEO and founder of Fisher Investments, and then his son took over. You probably see his son on CNBC all the time, Ken Fisher. The book is called Common Stocks and Uncommon Profits. I think you'll do really, really well in life and in the investment business if you just continuously read and reread Common Stocks and Uncommon Profits, Reminiscences of a Stock Operator, One Up on Wall Street by Peter Lynch, Margin of Safety by Seth Klarman, and How to Make Money in Stocks by William J. O'Neill. I think you'll do really, really well because, you know, trading and investing is not just all about slinging securities, right? It's also, trading is about the life choices you make, right? When you go to buy a home or something like that, when you go to buy a house, that's a trade. When you go to leave one company and go to the next, that's a trade. So it'll help you make better decisions in all aspects of your life, in any business, because it'll rewire the way you think about the world. Always put yourself in a position to capitalize on asymmetric trades and build asymmetric risk profiles for yourself, and go into industries that are expanding, right? Don't go into declining industries. It may sound quite obvious, but you'd be surprised. So if you're thinking about a career, something like that, think about what has the largest TAM, what is addressing the biggest problem, and swim towards that industry. And chances are you'll make the most amount of money, solve and work on the biggest issues, And chances are you'll probably end up at a company that's publicly traded that does really, really well. So that's another thing that I've learned over the years is trading and investing isn't, people just think, oh, you're a trader, oh, you're an investor. They just think about the stock market. No, it's every single thing you do. From the career you have, from the degree you get, at the college you go to, every decision that you make in life is a trade. That's how you have to think about it. Every micro decision you make,
Forget what it's like when you're military.
is it working you towards your goal with the lowest amount of risk? Right, risk-adjusted returns, and One Up on Wall Street really, really hammers that home. Reminiscences does, and especially Common Stocks and Uncommon Profits by Phil Fisher. Great, great reads. All right, everybody. Here we are. What the heck? We'll make this left. Now, we're gonna walk towards the Williamsburg Bridge. I always like to see if any of the cyclists are coming over and how many. Across the street is the Essex Market. I remember when that first opened. And it's nice in there. It's all modern. There's places to eat. There's a bar in there. It's called Top Hops Beer Shop, which used to be this underground kind of speakeasy type place. And then they moved into this new modern place and it kind of sucks now, but yeah, Jack CW. Well, don't the statistics show that less and less people are drinking alcohol now? Especially among young people, among millennials and Gen Z. The alcohol consumption compared to boomers is way, way down. Essex Street. Yikes. Lots of road rage. Dennis says they drink energy drinks. Hey, I mean, you're not wrong, right? I mean, look at Celsius. Celsius is another monster stock, and that company is based out of Boca Raton, Florida. Now, the story of Celsius is pretty fascinating because Celsius was on the verge of bankruptcy, I believe, and nobody was buying any of their drinks, and they did a complete rebrand, and they turned the entire company around, and they didn't really change any of the ingredients. It's the same product, it's just the branding. That really goes to show you just how important branding and marketing is. But what do you guys think of the Lower East Side? What are your thoughts? MG says, I agree, I'm in the wine business and most of my clients are boomers. Ooh, MG. Can I send you an email, MG? Because I buy a lot of wine for clients for like closing gifts and things like that. If you want, if you could send me an email, I want to pick your brain about a few things as it relates to specific wines. I have a lot of clients who have these massive wine collections, and oftentimes they'll send me pictures of things that they want to add to their collection. And sometimes I try to research it, buy it, and send it to them. If you send me, if you want, I'd love to pick your brain about it. There's a lot of older, like, money managers that I know that are really, really into collecting wine, all that type of stuff. I'd love to connect if you'd like. No pressure, I understand. You know, people want, you know, anonymity. But send me an email, I will we'll connect. This is Delancey Street. 2 more blocks. And we'll have reached the Williamsburg Bridge. But if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video. And click the subscribe button if you're new. Steve Young says they're substituting THC, or they're substituting, yeah, THC for alcohol. Maybe, it's possible. You know, THC marijuana is much, much less stigmatized now, and it's legal. In New York State, it's legal. So, I don't smoke weed, but I don't see any issue with it. Just not for me. Made it. Here we are, Williamsburg Bridge. We have the light, but you really, really got to watch it when you're crossing Delancey Street here, because this is just a really, really bad engineering here, because you have all the cyclists coming off the bridge and cyclists coming on the bridge. But get a load of this. This little teeny opening in the concrete is where all the cyclists have to get through. So when it's dark, I mean, there's so many accidents here, head-on collisions. So you really got to watch it. See, what happens oftentimes is people will come down and they have to go to the left. This is where that video is taken, and the police were giving out tickets. Dennis says, with interest rates higher, why do banks hardly pay any interest on savings? Because they don't have to. That's the blunt answer. They don't have to. You shouldn't be keeping, well, I can't advise on what to do, but you know, if you have your money in a brokerage account, just buy money markets, and your money market will probably get you a 5% risk-free rate of return with all the liquidity that you need and no lockup. You don't need to buy CDs. Just dump your money into a money market account. Again, I'm not advising anything. And you get instant liquidity, earning interest. And if you want to roll back in equities, you just roll back. Or if you want to roll into derivatives, you just do that. Or if you want to roll into futures, do that. But money markets are very, very liquid. and they have very, very high interest. Dario's is in Argentina. We put much sulfates into wine. Now, what is the wine of Argentina? Is it a Malbec? Something like that? Or Malbec? I'm surprised at all the traffic tonight. See, I actually know a little bit about wine because I have a few clients that have these massive collections. Now, I'm not a drinker at all, but I can see how people can get into the collection. I think I'd like to collect whiskey, bourbons, and all that type of stuff. Dario says Rutini is one of the best in Argentina. Let me take a screenshot of that. Shannon says Pappy Van Winkle. That's a bourbon, isn't it? Whiskey? I think there's 3 distinct levels of that. What is it? There's a 9-year, a 10-year, and then a... What's the most expensive one? Like a 50-year, something crazy? There's a really good Japanese whiskey, I believe. The brand is Hibiki. Hibiki Centauri, something like that. I find it fascinating the process how it's distilled. If you go to Brooklyn, New York, particularly Red Hook, yikes, let's get away from this. If you go to Red Hook, Brooklyn, particularly on Conover Street, there's this bourbon company called Widow Jane, and we had them sponsor one of our events when we were selling this penthouse at one of our buildings. And it's very, very cool how they do the distilling process, how they age it in the barrels. It's really, really cool. So shout out to the people from the Widow Jane. You could actually go there. It's 185 Conover Street in Brooklyn, New York, I believe. Dario says Macallan is a must. Dave says, Tom, did I go to today's Conover event? I couldn't get there. I couldn't get there. I wanted to. It seemed fun. Just couldn't get there. I'm working on trying to reel in a big deal. And the client is in Singapore. So if it's 8 o'clock at night here, it's 8 o'clock in the morning there. So it's 6 at 6 a.m. I was on the phone at 6 p.m. here, 6 a.m. there. That kid was yelling, or I should say hurling, homophobic slurs at me. That's not nice. I thought New York was supposed to be these liberals. But yeah, the time difference is wild. At a lot of the higher price points, it's mostly international buyers. So if you're working with people in Korea or in Singapore, it's a 14-hour difference or an exact difference. So, 2 or 3 in the morning, maybe that's when you gotta take the calls. So, anyway. Well, I think we'll go ahead and call it a night, because I gotta get something to drink and head home. Hopefully get some sleep. But thank you all for joining. This was fun. If you want to join us tomorrow, feel free to subscribe, and we'll be on at 8:45, starting at the Hudson Yards and walking the full duration of the High Line. So thank you all for joining, and we will see you tomorrow. Sunshine NYC. Dennis, appreciate it. Western Mass Dave, Sabrina Fair, Neil Gunn, Shannon, Paul, Dario, Joseph, T-Cal, Mike C, Ali Star, Tyler. Always a bull market somewhere. You just need to know where to look. See you guys right back here tomorrow, and have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Take care.